It was supposed to be a simple movie night. A young couple had been looking forward to a quiet evening out, but with a 2-year-old son, nothing ever stayed quiet for long. They had planned everything, packed his favorite snacks, brought his tiny blanket, and even picked a family-friendly movie. But little did they know, this night would turn into an unforgettable memory. The dim glow of the theater lights flickered as they settled into their seats, their little boy sitting between them. He was a curious, adventurous child, always fascinated by everything around him. His parents had hoped the big screen would capture his attention, but within minutes, he was already wiggling in his seat, looking around. "Sit still, buddy," his father whispered, handing him a small bag of snacks. The toddler took a bite, but his wide eyes kept wandering. He wasn't interested in the movie, he was more intrigued by the people, the sounds, and the smell of buttery popcorn floating in the air. His small nose twitched as he sniffed the air like a little detective, searching for the source of that delicious smell. And then, he spotted it. Just a few seats away, a man sat alone, a giant bucket of golden popcorn resting in his lap. The sight was too tempting. Without thinking, the toddler slid off his seat and began toddling toward the man. His parents were distracted for just a moment, maybe looking at the screen, maybe whispering something to each other, but by the time they noticed, their son had already crossed the row and reached the mysterious man's seat. Their hearts stopped. Before they could react, the little boy reached his tiny hand into the bucket and grabbed a fistful of popcorn. The parents gasped. What had he just done? In a fraction of a second, the man turned his head, looking down at the tiny intruder who had just stolen his snack. And that's when the parents realized who he was. Sitting in the dim glow of the theater, casually dressed in a hoodie and jeans, was Keanu Reeves. The father's breath caught in his throat. The mother's eyes widened in shock. Their 2-year-old son had just stolen popcorn from one of the most famous actors in the world. For a split second, everything was silent. Keanu looked at the little boy, his dark eyes twinkling in the faint light of the screen. The toddler, completely unaware of who he had just stolen from, chewed loudly, his cheeks stuffed with popcorn. The parents sat frozen in their seats, waiting for Keanu's reaction. Would he be annoyed? Would he call security? Would he scold them for not watching their child? Their hearts pounded as they watched Keanu's face. And then, he smiled. Not just a small smile, but a full, amused, warm grin. He glanced at the toddler, who was still munching away happily, then let out a soft chuckle. Instead of pulling the bucket away, Keanu did something completely unexpected. He tilted it toward the little boy, silently offering him more. The little boy's eyes lit up. He giggled, reaching his tiny hand back in for another handful. The mother covered her mouth in shock. The father blinked, unable to process what was happening. Keanu Reeves, the Hollywood legend, the action star, the John Wick himself, was happily sharing his popcorn with their 2-year-old son. The people sitting nearby started noticing the moment. Some nudged each other, whispering in excitement. Others chuckled softly, watching the adorable exchange unfold. The young parents didn't know whether to apologize or laugh. They had been worried about causing trouble, but instead, Keanu seemed to be enjoying himself. As the little boy grabbed another handful, Keanu playfully made a funny face, pretending to be shocked that his snack was disappearing so quickly. The toddler giggled again, clearly entertained. The father finally found his voice. "I'm so sorry," he whispered, trying not to disturb the moviegoers around them. He just loves popcorn." Keanu, still smiling, waved a hand dismissively. "No worries," he whispered back. "I don't mind sharing." The mother let out a breath she didn't even realize she had been holding. Just moments ago, they had feared trouble, but instead, their little boy had just made an unexpected friend in the most famous man in the theater. The movie played on, but at that moment, no one was watching the screen. All eyes were on the heartwarming scene unfolding in the dim glow of the theater. And it was only the beginning of the most wholesome, unexpected night of their lives. To be continued in part 2, Keanu's priceless reaction. For a few moments, the theater seemed frozen in time. The movie played on the big screen, casting flickering shadows across the dimly lit room, but all attention had quietly shifted away from it. Everyone in the surrounding rows had turned their eyes toward the unexpected, adorable scene happening in the middle of the audience. A Hollywood legend, sitting alone with his bucket of popcorn. A tiny, fearless toddler, shamelessly snatching handfuls from it. And a pair of horrified parents, too stunned to react. But then, Keanu chuckled. It wasn't just a polite laugh. It was a genuine, warm, belly laugh, the kind that made his shoulders shake ever so slightly. His dark eyes twinkled with amusement as he watched the tiny popcorn thief, who was still happily chewing, completely unaware of the situation he had just created. The parents, both beet red with embarrassment, leaned forward immediately. "We are so sorry," the father whispered, his voice barely above a breath. He loves popcorn," the mother added, her hands gripping the armrest, as if ready to bolt out of the theater in shame. Keanu turned to them, still smiling, and waved his hand dismissively. "No worries," he whispered back casually, as if he had just been reunited with an old friend instead of having his snack stolen by a sticky-fingered toddler. Then, instead of pulling the bucket away, Keanu did something that no one expected. He tilted the bucket slightly, nudging it toward the toddler, offering him more. The little boy's eyes lit up. He let out a tiny, delighted squeal, as if he had just won the lottery. Without hesitation, he grabbed another handful, stuffing his. Here was one of the biggest movie stars in the world, sharing his popcorn like a fun-loving uncle, instead of being annoyed at a stranger's child stealing from him. The father leaned in again, whispering in a voice thick with gratitude. And from the way people were pulling out their phones and whispering excitedly, it was clear that this wasn't just going to stay a private family memory, it was about to become something much, much bigger. The soft glow of the movie screen flickered across the audience, but at this point, no one was really watching the film anymore. All eyes were on the adorable scene unfolding in the middle of the theater, a Hollywood icon and a fearless little toddler, sitting together as if they were the best of friends, sharing a bucket of popcorn like it was the most natural thing in the world. It started with just a few whispers. People nudged their neighbors, pointing toward Keanu and his tiny movie buddy. A woman behind them silently gasped, pulling out her phone, while a teenager 2 rows over nudged his friend and whispered, "Dude, look at this. That's Keanu Reeves." Before long, more people started noticing. A soft wave of excitement spread through the theater as phone screens lit up, discreetly recording the unexpected, heartwarming moment. Keanu Reeves, the legendary action star, the man known for saving the world on screen, was now happily sharing his popcorn with a giggling 2-year-old. And the little boy? He had made himself at home. With zero hesitation, he plopped down in the seat right next to Keanu, legs barely reaching the edge. His tiny hands dug deep into the popcorn bucket, pulling out handfuls at a time. Every now and then, he'd look up at his new friend, giggling between bites, as if they had known each other forever. The parents, sitting just a couple of seats away, watched in a mix of shock, embarrassment, and pure amazement. The mother leaned toward her husband, whispering urgently, "Should we go get him?" The father hesitated, glancing at Keanu, who was completely relaxed, smiling as he handed the toddler another handful of popcorn. Before they could decide, Keanu casually turned to them and, in a soft, reassuring whisper, said, "It's totally fine. He's good." That simple statement, said with such genuine kindness, made the mother's eyes well up with emotion. Here was one of the biggest celebrities in the world, a man who could have easily been annoyed or dismissive, and instead, he was fully embracing the moment, as if this tiny, unexpected movie companion was the highlight of his night. Meanwhile, the little boy wasn't done making the moment even sweeter. After a few more bites of popcorn, he suddenly paused, looking at the snack in his hands. Then, with the innocent generosity only a toddler could have, he turned to Keanu and held out his own half-eaten, slightly soggy piece of popcorn. The audience, now fully invested in this adorable interaction, held their breath. Would Keanu actually take it? Without missing a beat, Keanu smiled and accepted it like it was a 5-star meal. He gave the toddler a little nod of appreciation, popped the piece into his mouth, and chewed with exaggerated enthusiasm, making it sound as if it was the best thing he had ever tasted. The little boy burst into laughter, kicking his tiny feet in joy. And then, the theater erupted. People couldn't hold in their laughter and cheers anymore. A wave of soft clapping and chuckles rippled through the room. A man a few seats away whispered, "That's the most wholesome thing I've ever seen." A woman behind them let out a delighted sigh, whispering, "I swear, Keanu is the kindest human alive." Someone else, still recording, murmured in awe, "This is going viral. I just know it." The parents exchanged a look, half stunned, half overwhelmed. Their 2-year-old had just fed Keanu Reeves, and in return, Keanu had given the world one of the purest, most heartwarming moments ever. For the rest of the movie, the little boy stayed nestled in his seat beside Keanu, occasionally glancing up at him and giggling, while Keanu kept sneaking him extra popcorn like a cool uncle sneaking treats past strict parents. It was a scene no one in that theater would ever forget. And soon, the entire world was about to witness it too. The night had ended with smiling faces, warm hearts, and an unforgettable memory, but for the young couple, it was just another sweet family outing, one that would become legendary before they even realized it. The next morning, the parents were going about their usual routine, making breakfast, tidying up, and trying to keep up with their energetic toddler, who was happily playing with his stuffed toys, completely unaware that he had become a viral sensation overnight. Then, the mother's phone buzzed. At first, she ignored it. Then it buzzed again. And again. And again. She frowned, finally picking it up, and that's when she saw it. Hundreds of notifications. Texts from friends and family. Missed calls. Mentions on social media. And dozens of unread messages with just one thing in common, Keanu Reeves. Her heart pounded as she clicked on the first message. "Is this your son with Keanu Reeves? This is everywhere." She blinked. What? Confused, she clicked on one of the links someone had sent. It was a video. And there it was. Her little boy, sitting beside the Keanu Reeves, giggling and munching on popcorn like they were lifelong friends. The video captured every adorable moment, his tiny hands grabbing popcorn, Keanu's warm chuckles, the priceless moment when her son offered Keanu a half-eaten snack, and Keanu actually took it. And the internet? It was losing its mind. The internet falls in love, again, within hours. The video had spread across every platform. On Twitter, people were calling it the most wholesome moment of the year. On Instagram, the clip had millions of views, with captions like, "Keanu is truly the kindest soul," and "Protect this little popcorn thief at all costs." On TikTok, the video had gone mega viral, with users adding captions like, "Only Keanu would make a toddler feel like the main character," and "Keanu just casually being the best human ever," again. Even on Facebook, where viral moments usually took longer to spread, the video had thousands of shares, from fan pages, movie accounts, and even news outlets. And the comments? They were pure gold. "Keanu is the only person on earth who can get robbed by a toddler and thank them for it. The fact that he ate the half-eaten popcorn? Give this man a Nobel Peace Prize. This is why we don't deserve Keanu Reeves. Keanu, just out here proving yet again why he's the nicest guy in Hollywood." Within hours, the video was featured on news sites all over the world. Keanu Reeves shares the sweetest moment with a toddler at the movies. People magazine, Keanu proves once again that he's the internet's favorite celebrity. The Hollywood Reporter, watch, Keanu Reeves' adorable theater interaction is melting hearts everywhere. Entertainment Tonight, by midday, TV stations were covering the story. Reporters played the footage, laughing in disbelief as they described how Keanu graciously accepted a toddler's half-eaten popcorn like it was the greatest gift on earth. Talk shows picked it up, too. One host laughed, shaking his head as he said, "I swear, every time you think Keanu can't get any nicer, he proves us wrong." The parents get flooded with messages by the afternoon. The parents' inboxes were overflowing. Friends, family, coworkers, even distant relatives they hadn't spoken to in years, were all reaching out. "You met Keanu Reeves? And he babysat your kid? Please tell me you got an autograph. This is the most adorable thing I've ever seen. Even strangers had started messaging them, sharing how the moment made their day, made them smile, or even made them cry. One message stood out. A woman wrote, "I lost my dad recently, and it's been hard to find joy. But watching this video reminded me of the goodness in the world. Thank you for sharing your little boy's pure moment of happiness. It gave me something to smile about today." The mother felt tears well up as she read it. It was at that moment she realized, this wasn't just a viral video. It was a reminder of kindness, of simple human connection, of pure and unexpected joy. Her 2-year-old son, too young to even understand who Keanu Reeves was, had unknowingly given the world a moment of warmth and laughter, and Keanu, being the person he was, had embraced it wholeheartedly. As she looked over at her little boy, still playing on the floor, completely oblivious to his newfound internet fame, she smiled, knowing that this was a story they would be telling for the rest of their lives. And somewhere out there, Keanu Reeves was probably going about his day, completely unaware that he had just broken the internet again, by simply being himself. The viral video had done more than just entertain people, it had reminded the world of the power of kindness. In an age where the internet was often filled with negativity, this one simple moment, a tiny child stealing popcorn from a movie star, had united people in joy, laughter, and admiration for Keanu Reeves. For the young parents, however, life had continued as normally as possible. Their inboxes were still flooded with messages, their phones still buzzing with notifications, and friends still calling to laugh about how their toddler had unknowingly befriended one of the biggest celebrities on the planet. And then, one evening, they got a call they never expected. At first, they thought it was a prank. A representative from Keanu Reeves' team had reached out, saying that Keanu himself had seen the overwhelming response to the video and wanted to personally invite them to a private screening of his upcoming movie. The mother's hand shook as she read the email. "This can't be real, right?" she whispered to her husband. But it was. Keanu, being the down-to-earth person he was, had seen how much joy the moment had brought to the world and wanted to give something back to the family who had unknowingly shared it. When they told their toddler they were going to see the Popcorn Man again, he let out a delighted giggle, clapping his hands excitedly. He didn't understand fame, or the internet, or why millions of people now adored him, he just knew he had made a friend, and he was about to see him again. The private screening. The family arrived at an exclusive, private theater, unsure of what to expect. They were greeted warmly by Keanu's team and led inside, where Keanu himself was already waiting, wearing his signature warm smile. The little boy didn't hesitate for a second. As soon as he saw Keanu, he let out an excited Popcorn Man, and ran straight to him. Keanu laughed in surprise, crouching down to his level as the toddler threw his tiny arms around him in an unexpected hug. The mother, watching the scene unfold, felt tears prick her eyes. Keanu, still grinning, ruffled the little boy's hair and said, "I've got something for you, buddy." He then reached behind him and pulled out a small but special gift, a custom-made mini popcorn bucket, with the boy's name written across it in gold lettering, along with a tiny engraved note, "For my little popcorn buddy. Keep sharing." Keanu, the moment was pure magic. The little boy's eyes widened with joy as he clutched the bucket tightly, as if it were the most precious thing in the world. And in that moment, the parents realized, this wasn't just a simple kind gesture. Keanu hadn't just given them a gift. He had given them a memory, a story they would tell for the rest of their lives. The private screening began, and though their son barely sat still through the movie, Keanu didn't mind. Every time the little boy giggled, pointed at the screen, or got distracted playing with his new popcorn bucket, Keanu smiled, clearly enjoying every moment. For him, this wasn't about publicity, or making headlines. It was simply about being human, about spreading kindness, the way he always had. The internet never forgets. Even after the screening, the story continued to live on. The internet, always quick to move on to the next big thing, never let this moment fade away. Years later, people still reposted the original video, captioning it with words like, "The day Keanu Reeves got robbed by a toddler and didn't even blink." still the most wholesome celebrity moment of all time. A reminder that kindness, even in the smallest moments, still exists. Every so often, new fans would rediscover the video, and once again, the comments would flood in with people reminiscing about the moment that had made millions smile. The little boy, now growing up, never fully understood his internet fame, but his parents made sure he always knew the most important part of the story, that kindness is free. That generosity, even as simple as sharing a bucket of popcorn, can change someone's day. And that, sometimes, the most unexpected moments become the most cherished ones. And Keanu? He continued being Keanu, the kindest man in Hollywood, the internet's favorite human, and now, in the heart of one little boy, the best popcorn-sharing buddy ever.